Hello, it's VLGA Connect and it's time for the weekly newsroom. And as always, the CEO of the VLGA joins us, Kathryn Arndt. Hi, Kathryn.
Hi, Chris.
How you going?
Yeah, look, not too bad, although a little bit concerned, of course, I suppose, as we all are hearing the latest stats with the COVID confirmed cases. And I imagine that we're all waiting to hear what they look like again over the next few days to understand whether or not we'll be continuing this lockdown that we're currently in. And just on that, I do, offer my thoughts to everyone. We're all in this literally together, but I know it is a very difficult time. Perhaps difficult more so for some than others, but certainly it's a tough time here in Victoria.
It is. And look, kudos to all the people working in local government. The sense I've had this time around is, yep, here we go again, but we know what to do. We've got this, and all the protocols and the processes have been put in place very quickly and with a minimum of fuss, it seems to me.
Absolutely. And I don't envy the job that our health department, our bureaucrats, the acting premier, all of those decision makers having to do at the moment.
So let's have a look at what's on the agenda for the newsroom. Now, can I firstly say thank you for your part in our special budget newsroom edition last week. That has certainly hit the mark because lots of people are watching and listening to that episode.
I'm so pleased that our viewers have found that of interest and something worthwhile. I must admit I haven't caught up on the latest stats. What are we looking at there, Chris?
I'm just looking it up while you're speaking, actually, but a typical newsroom episode, it's not. It's probably about double the usual viewing numbers on YouTube.
That is good. And I think that there's a lesson for us, or an opportunity to do more of the same and have a combined sort of Chris Eddy, Steve Cooper and Kathryn Arndt special newsroom. Perhaps once a month might be the way to go.
You've just made me realise what it is. It's the Steve Cooper effect.
Well, we don't want to really perpetuate that myth, do we, Chris?
The HART Awards, they were going to be a face-to-face event this coming Friday, but of course, due to lockdown restrictions, you've made the call, along with Reconciliation Victoria, to move them into a virtual setting. Yes,
we have, and we're really looking forward to that ceremony, although it will be a virtual ceremony. But what that does enable is for more people to join us and celebrate the wonderful initiatives that we've seen come in from all nominations, and in particular the finalists, looking at community-based initiatives that help non-Aboriginal people and Aboriginal people working together to strengthen reconciliation efforts. So we're very pleased to have the Minister for Local Government opening those awards. We're also joined by Sheena Watt, who is the member for the Northern Metropolitan Region, to celebrate the awards this Friday, starting at 11:30. If people would like to attend, they may do so by registering via our website.
And I think you've got live radio streaming as well.
We have 3KND are supporting the event, as they've done quite a few years now, and live streaming the event. So that's always an extra element, I think, that makes the awards ceremony very special.
Now, something that crossed my desk today, and I think yours as well, is this new tool that's being produced to help councils ensuring they're picking up on drug and alcohol issues in their health and wellbeing plans. Did you want to tell us a bit about that, Kathryn?
Look, I haven't had an opportunity to get my head across that in a lot of detail, but what it looks to me to be, and we can certainly share that resource with our viewers in this episode, is a tool that does assist councils to consider a number of different initiatives to incorporate into their community health and wellbeing plans, looking particularly at alcohol and drug, or minimising the use of alcohol and drug in their community. I think that the Alcohol and Drug Foundation have been working with the MAV to get that information out. they've also approached the VLGA to assist them in that.
Excellent. It's called The Art of Community Alcohol Management, what local government can do to prevent and minimise alcohol-related harms. So it does appear to be more alcohol-focused than drug-focused, but it does sound like a very useful tool. I know a lot of councils are already at the pointy end of their council plans and are folding in their health and wellbeing plans into those documents, but there are still a few months yet to go before they have to have their council plans in. So it could be a useful tool for many.
Look, I agree, and I would suspect even if they've got to the pointy end of finalising those plans, this particular tool will just assist and strengthen the implementation of what I would imagine to be some of the initiatives that most councils will have in those plans anyway.
Yeah. Now, next week, your introduction to gender equity session, I believe, is just about fully booked, if not by now. But the demand for these sessions has been pretty strong, Kathryn.
Look, it has been. We've been overwhelmed by the level of interest that we've received in these workshops. So we're rolling out a number of different workshops looking at the Gender Equality Act, the obligations of councillors and councils in the implementation of that legislation, but also encouraging council officers and others who may not necessarily see the gender equity portfolio sitting in their piece of their work to come along and understand more about the requirements under the Gender Equality Act.
Kathryn, it occurs to me also, while obviously a lot of people are looking at the requirements of that Act and the rolling out of the Local Government Act 2020, etc., we're right in the middle of budget time. And a lot of the grassroots things that councils do are coming into focus as well. I don't know about you, but I've seen lots of reports of draft budgets with all sorts of commitments to projects. Seems to me there's a lot of big ticket items this time around, but there's also a lot of attention on some of those things that perhaps the value's been really underscored by community use during pandemics, like libraries.
Yeah, and we spoke about that, didn't we, on the budget episode, the recognition of the importance of the role that libraries play, public libraries, and hence the additional state investment into the public library system. But you're right, and I was also interested to note, whilst we're talking about budgets, the investment that Melbourne City Council have made. I think it's around $50 million in their budget that's out for consultation at the moment, looking at waste and recycling collection, city cleaning and upgrades and maintenance of lighting to the City of Melbourne. I mean, that's a significant investment with the objective, from what I can understand in the media release that accompanied that announcement, was really to ensure that essential services such as street cleaning, graffiti and waste removal were a key focus of the council to provide a safe, healthy environment for the residents of Melbourne.
I did notice that, and it was also Melbourne, I think I noticed, that was putting money aside to convert a number of shop fronts to pop-up library venues in the city. Abolishing library fines was another thing that they were doing. Don't want it to be all City of Melbourne centric. All of the councils have their draft budgets out, and there's lots of great things in there that's well worth looking at. So leading the agenda, let's move to another really exciting topic. Audit and risk committees is the topic for discussion at your leading the agenda coming up in July.
That's right. On the 9th of July, we have a panel looking at the role of audit and risk committees and providing, hopefully, a live panel discussion where the audience can ask some of those questions that they may have been too afraid to ask about audit and risk committees or have always wanted to ask. So looking forward to doing that in collaboration with our sponsor, Pitcher Partners. It's still a little while away, and we've got some other panels coming up in the meantime anyway, which we should perhaps focus on. I believe we've got one with it's a panel of administrators coming up on the 18th of June to discuss the role of an administrator versus the role of an elected representative or a councillor. Now, this came about, Chris, because we had a media inquiry from, I think it was perhaps in South Gippsland somewhere, where the journalist was really keen to understand what an administrator could and couldn't do versus what a councillor could and couldn't do. And we thought, well, that's probably a question that many of us or many members of the community would like answered, and thought that a discussion about that would be really useful. Chris, and who have we got on that panel?
We're lucky to have all three current chair administrators that are in office in Victoria. So Julie Eisenbeiss from South Gippsland, Nolene Duff from Casey, and Lydia Wilson from Whittlesea. And I have to declare that, I'm an administrator now, so I'm really interested in this discussion as well. So the three chair administrators are coming together for a wide-ranging discussion on the role, and I think that's on the 18th of June.
It is, and I am hoping that I can join you for that panel discussion as well, Chris, and perhaps we can co-moderate, and you can then ask some of the questions you might have as a recently appointed administrator.
So look out for that one. Now, I know you've had a meeting this week or last week with someone at the Essential Services Commission. Do you want to tell us about how that went?
Look, I did. I had the great pleasure of catching up with Kate Simon, who is the Commissioner and Chairperson of the Essential Services Commission. And Kate and I had a chat in follow-up to our episode recently where we had Deborah Glass, the Ombudsman, and her report into the, inconsistent application of hardship policies and debt collection activities in councils, and the Ombudsman's recommendations that have gone to the state government for consideration, outlining a role potentially for the Essential Services Commission to play in assisting the local government sector get some consistency and what the Ombudsman would describe as fairness to the way in which they collect unpaid fines and unpaid rates. Of course, the ESC is not really in a position to comment in a lot of detail about that until the state government, of course, consider that report of the Ombudsman and the recommendations and do indeed agree that there is a role for the ESC. But what I was able to talk to Kate about was they've recently released a report on councils and the performance of councils. Yes. And she's indicated that she'd be very happy to come on the program and talk about that report. The role of the ESC, a lot of our new councillors may not know what role the ESC has in relation to local government, and in particular their role in the rate capping policy and the review of applications from councils who might be seeking an exemption to being locked into that rate cap.
That would be really good, Kathryn. I reported on that report, if you like, on the weekend edition of the podcast, the Local Government News Roundup. And they did find that while at the moment things are okay in terms of councils being able to, for example, respond to the pandemic financially, but longer term, there's going to be some serious issues for councils if revenue growth doesn't rebound. So it would be good to unpack that with the ESC as how they see the system perhaps changing as those situations occur.
Look, I agree, Chris, and there are a number of different areas of government looking at the financial viability and sustainability of councils and ways in which they can explore revenue generation that may be not just limited to the collection of rates or even state and government grants. And that, from my understanding, relates to the fact that many councils have strong asset bases. However, there is, of course, an understandable reluctance by councillors and councils to borrow against their assets. And one of the impediments to that is the way, in fact, the Auditor General undertakes his annual audits of council performance. And where there are councils that have gone into debt by borrowing, that results in an amber rating by the Auditor General, which of course councils get a bit concerned about, and also so do the community. So my understanding is that the local government minister and the Auditor General are in discussions about how the two agencies might work to better support local government to look at borrowing money as another way of, in fact, leveraging off those asset bases.
That will be really interesting to see where that lands. And I note that it's a live issue in New South Wales and Queensland and possibly other states as well at the moment around this sustainability issue for councils. Kathryn, on that rather sombre and serious note, we might need to wrap things up for another newsroom. Any final words?
Look, one thing I did want to bring our viewers' attention to was a notice that came out of Local Government Victoria late on Friday. In fact, it was Friday evening, that talked about the disclosure requirements and differential rates. So under the Local Government Act, there are obligations for council draft budgets to include a requirement to specify the objectives of any proposed differential rates. So a number of draft budgets that are out there apparently do not meet the requirements currently outlined in the Local Government Act. So we might send that link that came out from Local Government Victoria with this episode, but certainly if councils need any more information, please contact us here at the VLGA.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thanks for another episode of Newsroom. Good to talk as always. Hope you have a great week and looking forward to seeing you online at the HART Awards on Friday.
Looking forward to it, Chris, and stay safe and well.
Kathryn Arndt, CEO of the VLGA, with us for the Newsroom from VLGA Connect.